Oh, Vikings, let's win this game.
Attention fan, lock in on this. The Vikings are being urged to sign an $82 million wide receiver to pair with Kyler Murray. On top of that, big-name players are still sitting on the market and emerging as strong options after the Jonathan Greenard trade. And right in the middle of all this, there's a move that opens space, shifts money, and could flip everything on offense. Stay with me until the end because this breakdown is anything but calm, and the deeper you go, the more this starts to feel like a real turning point. There's a conversation happening right now that, at first, might sound a little too bold, but when you really think it through, it starts to make a lot of sense for the Vikings offense, especially after a draft that left more questions than answers in certain areas. Because while the defense got attention, there's still that feeling that something is missing on offense, a piece that can truly elevate the level of play. And that's where a name that's been gaining a lot of traction behind the scenes comes in: Deebo Samuel. Look at the situation. The team might be building an offense around Kyler Murray, leaning into mobility, quick plays, and off-script creativity. In that type of system, very few players in the league fit as naturally as Deebo. He's not just a receiver, he's a moving weapon, the kind of player who catches the ball near the line of scrimmage and turns a simple play into a big gain. And that completely changes the dynamic of the offense. Now imagine that alongside Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. That starts to look dangerous because it's not just depth, it's versatility. You're forcing defenses to pick where they're going to lose. And that matters when every defensive coordinator on the schedule is already building plans around Jefferson. Of course, there's another side to it. Deebo isn't at his physical peak anymore. He's dealt with production dips and injuries, and that matters when you're talking about investment. This isn't a small contract. We're talking about a player who has earned around $82 million in his career. But here's the key point people keep bringing up. Even with the decline, he still produces. Even with inconsistency, he still impacts games. And in a system that highlights what he does best, he could return to being that difference maker we've seen before. That's the gamble. And I'll tell you this isn't just empty speculation. There are analysts seriously considering this as one of the best ways to immediately support the quarterback. Whether it's Murray or even J.J. McCarthy down the line, adding a player like this makes life easier for whoever is leading the offense. And honestly, this feels like the kind of move that doesn't just improve the team, it reshapes the identity of the offense. So let me ask you, would you bring Deebo Samuel into this Vikings offense? Do you think he's still worth the investment, or has that window passed? Hold that thought, because the next name makes this receiver debate even harder to ignore. And just when it felt like the conversation about boosting the offense was already heating up, another name shows up that makes everyone stop and think again. Because this isn't just any player. This is someone who, for years, defined elite at his position. And even now, he still commands instant respect on the field. The name? DeAndre Hopkins. Now look at the context. The Vikings came out of the draft without adding a single wide receiver. Not one. And that leaves a very clear gap on the roster. Behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, depth is still a real question mark. Ty Felton, for example, hasn't shown enough consistency yet to lock down that role with confidence. That's not just a depth chart issue. That's a weekly matchup issue. Then you look at the market, and Hopkins is still available. It's no coincidence that analysts are already connecting the dots, especially because of his past chemistry with Kyler Murray in Arizona. 3 seasons together, over 2,600 receiving yards, 17 touchdowns. Proven connection. That matters. A lot. Let's be real here. Hopkins is no longer the dominant force he once was. Age has caught up. He's going to turn 34 years old. And since 2020, he's only had 1 season over 1,000 yards. But here's the thing. Experience doesn't disappear. Football intelligence doesn't fade like that. He doesn't need to be a number 1 option anymore. In this team, he could step in as a high-level number 3, the kind of player who shows up in key moments, third downs, red zone, tight situations. That kind of reliability can change drives, and drives change games. And there's another detail that doesn't get talked about enough. Hopkins himself left the door open. He said that if the team needs him, he'll be there. That's not nothing. Now think about it. Adding a veteran like that without spending a draft pick. That's correcting course quickly. That's recognizing a gap and addressing it before the season even starts. But there's risk too. Age, durability, game speed, it all comes into play. And that's why this decision can't be treated like a simple name chase. Because if Deebo comes, if Hopkins comes, or if neither one does, that will define the ceiling of this offense in 2026. And the next piece of this story brings the pressure even closer to home. This one isn't about the open market. It's about someone already inside the building. Quick ask, subscribe to the channel, and jump into the comments. Your voice matters here. Now here's where things shift from outside moves to internal decisions, and it involves a player that on the field, nobody questions. But off the field, he's definitely raised some eyebrows among this fan base in purple and gold. The decision is in, and the name at the center of it is Jordan Addison. The Vikings officially exercised his fifth-year option. In simple terms, the team is locking in more control over a player who has already delivered solid production. Nearly 2,400 receiving yards and 22 touchdowns in his career so far. Strong numbers, especially playing alongside Justin Jefferson. But this isn't just about production. Addison has missed games due to suspension. He's had off-field issues. He's been in the spotlight for reasons that have nothing to do with football. And that matters when you're making a decision like this. That's where the divide comes in. On one side, you see a young, talented player, only 24 years old. Still plenty of time to grow, mature, and become a cornerstone piece. On the other side, some see this as rewarding risk too early, as if the team is betting big without knowing if the off-field side will truly stabilize. That tension is what makes this move so important. Let's be completely honest here. This decision is both a vote of confidence and a warning. Kevin O'Connell made that clear between the lines. He praised Addison's impact, highlighted how he complements the offense, but also made it clear this is a critical moment in his career. It's basically, we believe in you, now prove it. Financially, this is significant too. We're talking about roughly $18 million guaranteed in that final year. That's real investment. And here's the key. This doesn't guarantee a long-term future. It doesn't lock in an extension. It opens the door. And whether that door stays open is entirely up to Addison. That puts pressure on every practice, every game, every decision. So here's the question a lot of people are asking. Is Minnesota right to bet on him despite the off-field concerns? Because what comes next shifts the tone completely. We move from a young player gamble to an emotional situation involving one of the most respected names in franchise history. There are moments in football that go beyond stats, beyond schemes, and this is one of them because it involves legacy, leadership, and respect inside this team. And right at the center of it is Harrison Smith. What we have right now is a strange situation, to say the least. The Vikings released him, but at the same time made it clear the door is open for a possible return. So it's not a final goodbye, but it's not a guaranteed continuation either. And that creates a void, because we're not talking about just any defensive piece. We're talking about someone drafted by the team back in 2012. A player who built his entire career wearing purple and gold, over 200 starts. Leadership on the field, a voice in the locker room. You don't just replace that by plugging in another name. And Vikings fans know that better than anyone. But time catches up to everyone, and the signs are there. His last season showed a drop in production. Fewer tackles, reduced snap share. That matters when the organization has to decide on direction. At the same time, the silence is telling. No official retirement announcement, no confirmation of a return. Just this lingering question of what now? The team has started to prepare. They drafted safety Jacoby Thomas, a productive college player, strong against the run, but still developing in coverage, not an immediate replacement for someone like Smith. Beyond that, the roster includes Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, and Josh Metellus. There are options, but leadership, that's a different conversation. And now the real dilemma shows up. Do you move forward and turn the page? Or do you wait one more year for a player who knows the system, organizes the defense, and can still contribute even if he's not at his peak? Being real here, losing Harrison Smith without a clear transition could cost more than it seems, not just on the field, but inside the locker room. And that's why this decision carries emotional weight and football weight at the same time. It also ties directly into the next move, because now we're not just talking about who stays or who leaves. We're talking about how Minnesota uses the money it freed up, and whether the offense becomes the new priority. Now this is where things hit another level, because this isn't just about fit or speculation anymore. This is about a move that already happened, and the chain reaction it created for the Vikings offense. The name that triggered it all? Jonathan Greenard. The team traded Greenard to the Philadelphia Eagles, and with that move, they freed up over $12 million in cap space. So this wasn't just a football decision. It was strategic. It created immediate flexibility to act in the market. And when you combine that with the fact that the team didn't draft a wide receiver, everything that's coming next starts to make sense. One of the most talked about names in this new scenario is Jauan Jennings. He's not a headline superstar, but look at the profile. Over 200 receptions, more than 2,500 receiving yards, physical presence, red zone target. The kind of player who does the dirty work and shows up when it matters. And sometimes, that's exactly what a roster needs, especially when the stars already draw the spotlight. But it doesn't stop there. The market still includes options like Deebo Samuel, Curtis Samuel, and even Keenan Allen. Different styles, different risks, different levels of impact. And now the real chess game begins. Do you go with a younger, physical option like Jennings? Do you push for immediate impact with a veteran like Keenan Allen? Or do you take a swing on versatility with Deebo? All of that is now possible because of the Greenard trade. But of course, there's a cost. You lost an important pass rusher, a player who pressured quarterbacks, who helped the defense function. Replacing that is not simple. So in a way, the Vikings made an indirect trade, giving up defensive strength to chase offensive explosiveness. That's a bold shift, and it puts pressure on the next move to be the right one. And that says a lot about the direction this team might be heading, because this isn't just about adding talent. It's about identity, about what kind of team the Vikings want to be this season. And when you step back and look at everything together, potential signings, internal decisions, a major departure, defensive uncertainty, it's clear this is not a normal moment. This is a turning point, and the next decision may tell us what Minnesota really believes it is. And when you put all of this together, you can't treat these as isolated moves. This is a clear picture of a team trying to redefine itself, adjusting the offense, creating cap space, betting on young talent despite risks, and dealing with the possible departure of a franchise legend like Harrison Smith. This isn't a minor tweak. This is a shift in direction. There's risk, there's boldness, there's pressure. And there's a real question hanging over everything. Are the Vikings building a more explosive team or creating new problems while trying to fix old ones? Because when you make moves like this, there's no middle ground. Either it clicks and the team takes a leap, or the questions start building fast. And now I want to hear from you. What would you do in this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.